Hypnosis. All righty.
Okay, so there I am. So I tagged you.
Got it. Sharing it.
Okay, cool. And then I'm going to go ahead and share this also
Posting.
in,
Okay.
let's see, copy. I'm going to share this with a few of my, sharing a group. Let's see.
Oh, I could do that too.
Yeah.
Good idea. Well, oh yeah, here we go. Share.
I'm going to share.
Group.
Yeah, so we're doing all the sharing to our groups and all of that. So I'm going to share to Personal Growth Club.
Got that.
And we
on
have
my
6
page.
people watching. Let's see.
Hello, everybody. Where is it again?
Let's see. And I'm going to share.
Sharing the page.
Let's see. Oh, I'm going to share my Hip Talk page.
There. Got it.
We're just doing all the sharing, you guys. So sharing is caring. Let's see. All right. And let me share one more place here. I'm going to share my Hip Talk page. Oh, you want to we're just doing all the sharing. Mute the volume on your Facebook.
I got out of it.
Oh, you did? Okay.
Yeah,
all right,
I'll stay in the Zoom for that. That was like radio all over again. 7-second delays and
right. I know. Yes. Let's see. I think I'll also share to my Practical Law of Attraction group. Okay. All right, Helena. I'll check in with you later. Share to a group. Share to a group. Which other group? Okay, I'm going to share to Practical Law of Attraction group. Okay, and then I'm also going to go ahead and expand it here so I can. Okay, Helena, I'll check with you later. Okay. All right, there. That way I can see people's comments over here. And yeah, you always have all this like little crazy setup stuff when you go live and want to connect with everybody. Okay. All right. So we are going to go ahead and get started here. And since this is for my podcast, just bear with me, those of you who are listening and watching. This is kind of simultaneously, we're doing a Facebook Live, and we're also doing this for my Power of Your Mind podcast. So I'm going to do my little Power of Your Mind podcast introduction and go. Hello and welcome to today's episode of the Power of Your Mind podcast. You are listening to episode number 94. I'm Victoria Gallagher, Law of Attraction Coach, #1 best-selling author of Practical Law of Attraction, Align Yourself with the Manifesting Conditions and Successfully Attract Your Desires. I'm also a clinical hypnotherapist, founder of HipTalk.com and HypnoCloud apps. Be sure to stop by HipTalk.com, sign up for your free self-hypnosis video training course. For our listeners who found us through Power of Your Mind podcast, be sure to enter the code podcast when you place your first order and get 35% off. And also be sure to download our latest HypnoCloud app from the iTunes and Google Play stores. All right, so today I have a very special guest and friend with me and colleague, John Soriano. John Soriano is a certified life coach, certified Neuro-Linguistic Programming master practitioner, certified ZPoint Coach, practitioner, certified hypnotist and mindfulness instructor, and an advanced EFT, which is emotional freedom techniques expert. His clients know him for his flexibility stemming from intuition, which can range from very supportive to tough love, his mentoring and accountability, and his humor, among many other qualities. John has been a student of human psychology and emotions since his youth, being ever fascinated with what makes people act and behave as they do. His journey led him to study a wide range of philosophical ideas from ancient to modern. His journey to the current set of tools that he began using in 2005 with his first exposure to the powerful technique. John has continued to study and add additional tools. So thanks to technology, John has had clients from all over the world, from local in the US to New Zealand, and he's also appeared on numerous radio shows, both in the US and UK. And today, John is going to be sharing some of his insights on emotional freedom techniques, neuro-linguistic programming, and hypnosis. So welcome to the show, John.
Thank you. Thank you. It's great to be back.
Thank you again for being here on Power of Your Mind podcast and here with us on Facebook Live. And just for those of you who are listening to Power of Your Mind podcast, and we're actually broadcasting this live on Facebook. And so as somebody who's listening to the Power of Your Mind podcast, if you want to ask questions, in the future, you should actually follow us on hiptalk.com or join one of my Facebook groups, Personal Growth Club, because you could join us here because we actually have people that are joining us, and these people are going to get access directly to John right here in our podcast. So if anybody here live that's joining us has questions for John or myself, feel free to leave us a comment and let us know what your questions are. So my question is, how did you stumble upon and get involved in this work, EFT in particular?
EFT was by accident. It was part of a course I was taking, an academic coaching course, actually. And it was literally the last part I had to complete for certification because I pushed it to the end because it looked so ridiculous to me. I just couldn't compute in my head at all. Like, okay, we're going to do this. We're going to feel better. And that's awesome. I'm like, yeah, no.
Right.
And it was a neuro-linguistics based program.
And John was touching his face, by the way, during that.
I did wash my hands first.
Yeah.
So I'm well aware of the protocols. And you know what? I'm glad you said that because while we're talking here, if you need to go run real quick to either wash your hands or sanitize your hands and fingers, because we will be doing this, go do that now.
Yes, that's a good, it's a good thing that we brought that up right now.
Yeah.
Because this EFT, you will be touching your face.
Yes, you will be touching your face. And that's a whole other thing we'll talk about in a second in itself, how that's going with everything now. But so I did it because I had to. What was interesting was the creator of that training was also a master practitioner at Neuro-Linguistics, and he replaced a lot of what he did with EFT because he found it was quicker and it was more elegant to use. So finally I had to face it because I had to. And then the rest, as they say, is history. I tried it and I was like, wait a minute, something's weird. Something's going on. And and unexplainable shifts in cognition and even in physiology. And it was just like, okay, well, that's really strange. I mean, I knew acupuncture because I've done it. I used to have migraines way back when, and looking like Hellraiser with all the needles coming out was the only way that finally got taken care of. But
so I'd imagine during this time, while we're all, dealing with our fears and anxieties, you must be helping a lot of people right now with using EFT because it's great for dealing with anxiety.
Yes. Well, yeah. And I've been trying to, I mean, I'm doing Facebook Lives, trying to get word out to people, as, make myself accessible as much as I could. Because it is a crazy time, and some people are a lot of them are in fight or flight responses right now, for whatever reasons, for whatever way they're getting triggered. And you could see that. I still can't figure any psychological reason for hoarding toilet paper, for example, other than the need to think you're controlling the uncontrollable.
Yeah. And I think that's exactly what it is there, people have, there is a psychological need to, like, when you have all, you just feel more secure if you seem to have, all these things.
And big things, right? Because packs of toilet paper, by and large, you get the big thing. It's a big thing. And I can stack these big things and I might have some control. And really what's going to come down to is, and I touched on this in a live I did myself yesterday, is that ultimately there's really only going to be one thing you're going to be able to control throughout all of this. And that's going to really be what goes on between your ears, right?
That's really it.
Because a lot of the reactions.
It's the one thing they cannot take.
That's right. They can't take that away. They try though, right? I mean, first thing I would recommend to anyone really is to go on a media diet, like right away. Like stop watching the news, right? Because it's going to be skewed stuff they're giving you. Let's be honest. It's going to be, if it bleeds, it leads kind of stuff. Not to minimize anything that's going on. I have family in New York, which is now the new epicenter. Apparently, the country of my heritage is finally coming off a decimation. But even with those numbers, you're not giving the whole thing, and I'm not going to get into all that here, but just know that a lot of that is skewed and biased, and they want one reaction from you. They want you to get freaked out. It's kind of like moths to the flame kind of thing.
Well, their job, they're making money, their job is to sell advertising. So they're going to go where people are more inclined to go. And unfortunately, we have this negativity bias. Our minds are hardwired to grasp things that are more negative and more fearful. And because of our ancestries of having to always constantly look over our shoulder and protect ourselves from saber-toothed tigers and all of those things. So, and these days, even though there's no saber-toothed tigers to run from, we still have the same wiring.
Exactly. And they know that. And it's something where you really have to stop and say, okay, if you find yourself looking at the news more than usual, right? And kind of like, it's hideous, but I can't look away, that kind of thing.
Yes.
You find yourself reacting to what you're seeing, emotionally, physically. That's indicator number one that you need to turn it off, right? You just need to turn it off. And staring at that, getting that feed is not going to do anything for you. It's just not. And if there's anything you need to know about, you'll find out, right? So for example, I'm really not watching any of it at all. I get notified by my job that we're not reporting. Okay. I get notified by telephone that the city's in lockdown. That's it. And that's all I needed to know. Right. So whatever lockdown
That's really
means.
all you need to know right now. It doesn't help
all I need to know
how many deaths there are, how many new cases there are, any of that. And You know, and it's in a way, it can just kind of form a little bit of an addiction, because when I'm just imagining that you might say this as well, but when we whichever feeling it's triggering in you, that feeling, we're addicted to that feeling. We're addicted to the chemical that is giving off, that fearful feeling. Even we get like some sort of
it's like a rush, almost
a rush from the fear.
Yeah.
And it's really easy to get kind of addicted to that.
It is. And the thing is, it's a twofold problem. One is that it's going to keep you in a negative state. But maybe even more importantly, is that you keep getting keyed up to the point where it's hitting you physiologically. You're going to put your immune system at risk.
Which is the thing we need strengthen right now.
Exactly. And it's almost as if the media just wants more business. Let's get more people down and crashed and everything else, and maybe they'll you have to guard your emotions and your physiology right now, because
especially right now, in addition to, of course, take the protocols and the safeguards like we warned you about. I hope everybody washed their hands, by the way, or sanitized. I'm watching. Okay. Just to be sure. So do that, of course. Keep your social distancing, that kind of thing, of course. But you also need to work on you, right? You need to work on controlling your emotional state. You need to work on where your focus is, which is going to create your state, right? You have whatever filters you have of your map of the world, right? Where is your focus? Where is your physiology? That's your state. That's your state. Now, if your state is going off the reservation right now because of everything going on, you're going to start to break pretty soon. You're going to start compromising your bodily systems, your immune system, things like that, which you don't want to have happen. Now, am I saying, okay, if you get all freaked out and everything and your immune system drops, you're going to get coronavirus? No. But what I am saying is you don't really want to get sick, because doctors' offices and hospitals are not a place to be right now. No.
Right?
Well, see,
if you could get in.
That's a secondary thing. Like, we got to take a little bit of personal responsibility right now and be on heightened internal security with our health, because we can create other kinds of illnesses that, just from the stress that we're feeling. I mean, honestly, there's been days where I've felt a little bit of the stress, and I've had a little tickle in the back of my throat, because the stress can create all kinds of little physiological effects,
or it could exasperate an existing condition. In fact, I had asked on my Facebook stream, and the reason I asked it is because towards the beginning, when this was all really breaking out, and especially when Italy was really, hitting it hard, and I have psoriasis. Usually it doesn't do much, but it flared big time because of the stress of everything going on, and looking at the news, and why is everybody taking all the toilet paper? What do they know that I don't know? And what is this thing? And then do we have to hoard food and water? We need to buy. And then I just stop. If I need water, turn on the tap. I mean, this isn't hurricane prep here. First of all, I'm in Florida. I should be used to this.
Yeah.
By now, right? This is just part of the drill for us, and we're just like, hey, this is cool. In 2 more months, we go through this all over again because it's hurricane season. So you have to choose your battles mentally after that. So
yeah,
I noticed that it started to to exasperate. And I actually asked, any psoriasis sufferers, is it getting worse with all this going on? Yeah. And I got a lot of positive responses that it is. So even let's just take Corona out of the equation just for a second in terms of you actually getting it or whatever. Things you might have now as pre-existing conditions, right? Skin issues, digestive issues, asthma, everything, the kind of illnesses that could be exacerbated by emotion will get 10 times worse in this. Even your allergies could be getting worse from this, from the stress that, because you're keyed up, if you're constantly watching the media for hours a day, you're staying in this fight or flight response. Your body's in this guarded physiology for way too long, over a long term, right? And it's going to take its toll. It's going to do its damage. Not to mention emotionally, you're just going to get really negative. You're going to get really upset. You're going to get really sad. Again, being Italian, it was breaking my heart. I had to turn it off because really there's nothing I could do about it.
Right. Watching it, observing it. I mean, just from a law of attraction standpoint, whatever you are focusing on is expanding. And so by just observing what's going on, and I believe you're making it worse. And so you have to start to think about, okay, I'm gonna do my part. This is what I'm being asked to do. Being asked to stay home and wash my hands and keep my distance from people. I'm not being asked to do anything else other than that. And worrying about it, focusing on it, being constantly inundated with it is not going to make it better.
No. And it really comes down to perspective and what meaning you're attaching to it. Right.
Yes.
I mean, NLP 101, but that's really what's happening. I mean, I saw a really good post on Facebook about perspective with someone was telling her husband that, it's really sad that the senior class this year, they're not going to walk. They're not going to have graduation ceremonies, nothing like that. It's really sad. They work so hard. And the husband responds, oh, yeah, just like from 1964 to 1970, their senior trip was to Vietnam.
Exactly. Yeah, I saw that post.
I was like, yeah, that's kind of.
They've got a whole lot better.
Yeah, it looks a whole lot better right now. Oh my God, we got to hunker down with the internet.
Yeah.
It's not the worst thing in the world. Yes, you have. I mean, I have both my parents are in their upper 80s and they're up in New York. Right. So I'm trying not to think about that. Actually, they're probably in a better position than most because they're pretty hermits anyway. They don't really go out anyway. So they've kind of trained their whole lives for this. But, it's, again, a matter of where you're going to place your focus, where you're going to, what's your perception going to be, what meaning you're going to attach to it. Now, I was talking with somebody, and this was another interesting little twist too. Some people, apparently, one of the emotional challenges that they're working on is not that they're getting upset. They're dealing with guilt because they're not getting upset.
Interesting.
And I thought that was like, whoa, I didn't really think of that one, but yeah, I mean, it's almost like survivor guilt in a way, it makes sense.
I know what you're saying. Because in a way it's like, we, especially as people who have trained our minds to remain calm and cool and collected during a crisis, during anything, I have the ability to not panic. And a lot of times if you're not panicking along with everybody else, it gets assumed that means you don't care. And it's not that I do care. I'm doing whatever, but for me to panic along with everyone, I mean, I know I've trained myself not to do that. I've
Right.
trained
Oh yeah.
myself to remain calm.
Yeah, same here. I mean, I've been in leadership roles, so where I had to be the person in charge in an emergency. So
Yeah.
if you heard me on the radio, it'd be like, hey, and I need someone to report to here and blah blah. No one would ever have known what was going on if they listened to my voice, but I'm trained for that. So
right. I mean, it's like no different than like when my husband, my husband and is driving and somebody cuts him off or whatever, and he's going on about that person for several minutes, and I'm just kind of sitting there. He's like, "Didn't you see that?" I was like, "Yeah, I did," but I'm not gonna.
Well, no, okay. To be fair, that's kind of a guy thing, I'm not going to fault them on that one. I'll give them that one too, because I'll take a good half mile if somebody calls me off. Plus, I'm from Brooklyn, so it's in the DNA anyway. I'll that kind of thing. But yeah, I thought that was an interesting take too. That she was feeling guilty that she wasn't getting stressed out. Like, what right did her word, what was it? What right do I have to feel okay while everyone else is suffering? And I thought that was, wow. I mean, that's an angle I didn't think of before, but yeah, I totally get it. So
well, it's really interesting. There's so many different coping styles, and I think that we're right now having the biggest peek into all the different ways that people cope with this. Some people cope by by breaking the rules. Some people cope by really staying within the rules. Some people cope by overeating or medicating or buying a lot of stuff that they don't need, or by being extremely frugal and not spending any money, or by having a bad temper, being nasty to people. Some people are coping by being extremely nice and extremely gentle, extremely patient. And so, it's really interesting to see all the different styles. And there's not one right or wrong way, I don't think, to deal with it. I mean, I think if you're out there really being part of the problem and you're, that's an issue.
I mean, if you're out in Walmart licking ice cream, like they were catching them doing. But I mean, there's as many responses ultimately as there are maps of the world.
Yeah.
Right. So a lot of this is going to be giving people really insights into themselves. And look, I mean, almost every major city that I know of is pretty much in lockdown or about to go into lockdown. You don't have a lot to do anyway. So maybe use the time to do a little bit of introspection. So in other words, let's say you were one of these people that ran out and bought a shit ton of toilet paper.
Literally.
Okay, literally. I was hoping you would catch the pun. All right, so that was intentional. So maybe you now want to examine what made you do that. Right? What perspective, why did you feel such a scarcity mindset? Okay. And also, does the scarcity mindset go to other areas of your life? Right? So a crisis will reveal who you are.
Hi, Peter.
More often than not.
I believe so. I think really how you do one thing is how you do everything. So how you handle this crisis, I believe, it's a little bit more in your face, but it gives you an opportunity really to kind of look at, because you're not handling this crisis really any differently than you handle things ordinarily in your life. But I think it's just, it's blown up, it's a bigger you know, it's blown up for bigger, so you can actually really see how you really handle things when you're up against it.
Yeah. And it really reveals you what your programs are. Right.
Yeah, for sure.
So, you know, are you, for example, if you're a sort by self person, like I am in most instances, I don't get swayed by what I see people doing, because I'm going to think it through and take my own feedback. Right. But if you're a sort by others, you're going to see people hoarding something and you're going to think, well, okay,
maybe I should be.
What do they know that I don't know? And you're going to base it off. Perfect example, when we got the order, it was 2 days ago, they gave us the order that we were going to go into lockdown starting last night. And they gave you the list of stuff you're still able to do. And I turned to my wife and I said, I guarantee you the stores will be jam-packed tomorrow. She goes, why? I said, because people don't read. They're not going to read. They're going to jump into their program because it got triggered. And they're going to say, oh my God, everything's going to run out. Okay. Even Italy.
It's not going to run out, people.
We still had food stores open.
The food stores.
They never closed the food stores. Even in Italy, even when they were nearing peak, the food store was open. The pharmacies were open.
Yeah.
That's not going to stop. But see, it's not about logic, is it? And it's not about, you know, conscious awareness. It's about, right, drop the quarter in.
It's an essential business. I mean, all of the essential businesses are going to still stay open. So everybody who's making
some of them
the
are really
supplies,
stretching that definition. I mean, the liquor stores apparently are essential businesses. They're still open.
Yeah.
Which I kind of get, I guess, but you know.
I can see that. I can see that.
I mean, you know, wake me when it's over, you know, but
kind of like that scene in Airplane, you know, pick the wrong week to
stop sniffing glue. Let's pick the wrong week to stop sniffing glue. Have a drinking problem. Yeah, I mean, but you know, if anything, like I said, you have a lot of time on your hands. You might as well start to look at how you've been reacting to all this and start to see where your program is. You know, it could really start peeling layers off an onion.
Yeah.
Right. Now, one way to get there is actually by using something like EFT, for example.
Yeah, so let's get into the EFT. Like,
okay, I brought that right around.
Yeah.
I didn't even signal. Definitely. I just turned right into the lane. Okay.
Right? That was very smooth.
Yeah. I think I cut somebody off, but that's okay.
Right. So, well, first of all, so give me a rundown of some related things, and just a list of some related things that people are dealing with right now that EFT could help with.
Well,
for example, anxiety, right?
Yeah. Stress, anxiety, panic, sadness, guilt, grief, nervousness, agitation, unknown negativity. Like you kind of often you don't know why. Tightness in the chest, nausea, feelings of disassociation from your body. List goes on and on. Because and when I say tightness in the chest, I'm talking about a heart attack. I'm talking about what anxiety and stress will do.
Yeah.
Now, because sometimes you don't realize. Right. So I do use something sometimes called a body shortcut. And that's where you just will do the tapping without words. Right. In fact, we could play with that one first if you want, so I could explain it in more detail. So here's the thing. You have something, the cybernetic loop, right? So whatever happens up here affects here, right? So, you know, we know this when we were teenagers and you looked across the room and your eyes met, you're like, oh, right? That was all an inside job, right?
Yeah.
But you knew it was real, whatever that is, Neo, because you felt these butterflies in your stomach, you felt the sweat coming, your heart going, you know, whatever it was, and that's how you knew it was real, right?
Mm-hmm.
So this affects this, we know that. However, you can also run the cybernetic loop in reverse. So let's say I'm dealing with, you know, I'm feeling just, I feel anxiety, anxiousness in my body, right? It's just
Right.
like in my chest is wherever it is. Now, if I tap with that and I target just that and I tune you in on that, it's going to throw that relaxation response back. So your brain is going to say, okay, you should be panicking. He's not. Okay, maybe let's start reprocessing this. And your mind will begin to reprocess on its own, because this has to match. If it doesn't, that's a whole other problem, right? So this has to match. So if your brain is like, okay, you know what to do, you see them hoarding toilet paper, you're supposed to panic, you know this, right? and it shoots the signal down, but it goes no, because you've been tapping as you were experiencing the symptom, and you sent that signal back. The brain will now readjust and it will reprocess it. And it happens in an instant, right? And I think that's part of the shock and awe I get from a lot of people is they're not used to stuff working quickly.
Right.
And actually working, right? So I'll get the face 99.9% of the time. And the face is this. After we go through it and I say, okay, go back and notice what's different. And they'll go like this.
They can't find it.
Can't find it. And then they look at me and I'm like, I didn't do anything to you. I'm over here. Right. So, you know, you did that. I didn't do anything. I just guided you how to work your own brain, but it's the way the brain is wired to work. So it just moves it that quickly. And there's really two main versions of this kind of stuff that I use. And the classic one is what we'll do here, and including the body shortcut. That's kind of a tweak on the classic version. And then there's one called Faster EFT, which actually stands for emotionally focused transformations, I think. Robert Smith stuff. And he and I had done Skype sessions back in the day where he gave me his insights and his little stuff on how to work his way to do it. And it relies more on neuro-linguistics, believe it or not. But just as effective. So, but for now, we'll use the classic version. And let's say, okay, I'll throw it out to whoever might be on live for a second to see if anybody wants to jump in and be a volunteer.
Yeah. Does anybody want to be a volunteer?
I've done this without a net before.
If not, you know,
that's cool.
I can.
I'll just volunteer.
I've had Victoria. Yeah, just let me know. And we're on a little bit of a delay here, so so I'll give it about 30 seconds. And if not, I can volunteer because I've definitely had some what I call like low lying anxiety, where, you know, it's not like I'm focusing on anything particular, but it's like, you know, I just felt the physical sensations, like you know, where I get it. You know, I had lung surgery several times, and I have a little scar tissue under, like, just all along the band that stretches across my breastbone, and it's like I have a tendency, I think, to kind of hold, you know, a lot of tension in that area. And so I know if I'm stressed that, you know, I get a little pain, get a little ache in there, you know, in my scar tissue area. And so, so I'd love to like get rid of that, because that's been a little bit.
See, now actually in that case, this is going to actually work even better. And here is why. Okay. Because you don't really identify a particular trigger target.
No.
Right. I would even venture to
It's
guess.
like a general, like it's just a general, it's like, oh God, like this whole
Right.
thing.
Well, and I think that's coming from, because I know you and I know you're highly intuitive, right? And people like that will, in lack of a better analogy, will feel disturbances in the force, right? And you might very well be picking up on the loads of anxiety and negativity in the ether.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
So
the mass right.
Right.
The mass consciousness.
Exactly. And for people like that have that, myself, even to some degree, and I'll know because I'll feel like I have to start to guard. And that'll be my self indicator that, okay, I'm taking on too much crap from everybody else, and I'm not going to do that. So that might very well be what's going on here. So this would work even better in this case because I don't have a target. Right. Yeah. If I was going to do conventional EFT, I would have to find a specific target.
Yeah.
Like, even though, they told me this and I panicked when I was 8 or something, you know what I mean? Something like that.
Yeah.
That's specific, but
mine is just so general.
Yeah. It's like in lieu of that target, then I'm just going to use the body shortcut first. So here's what we're going to do. Okay. And everybody else could follow along. So yeah. So what we're going to do is, first, everybody who's watching or will be watching at some point, pick where you might be experiencing any negativity physically. Okay. Or if you say, for example, okay, well, I'm anxious. Well, how do you know that? Yeah. Okay. And for me, I'm gonna say there's actually two places I feel it in my jaw. Okay. Little like teeth clenching. So it's like a little bit in my jaw, and a little bit in my my scar tissue area. Scar tissue area. Okay. Which one's worse? Probably the scar tissue area. Okay. On a 0 to 10, how bad is that? If you right now, while we're right here, it was way worse this morning when I just kind of was getting moving. So I've been pretty relaxed and chilled out for this whole last few hours. So it's not, it's kind of barely detect. I mean, right now it seems like my jaw is actually more right in this present moment. Okay, so let's focus there. Yeah. Okay. I'm gonna give it a 4. I'm gonna say I'm at about a 4. So see if you could, as you focus there, all right, see if you could crank it up a notch or 2. Oh yeah, I just did it. I somehow I was able to get it up to a 6 when you said that, crank it up. All right. So what I want you to do, as you're focusing there now, okay, you focus on how and you focus on what it feels like and where it feels it and all that. Now you could open your eyes, and I just want you to start tapping as you focus. Okay. Now on the side of the eye, just tap as you are focusing on that pain. Okay, just tap as you focus. Okay, under your nose, tap as you focus. Okay, on your chin. On the collarbone. Up a little bit more. Whoops. Towards center. Yeah, you go. Yeah, perfect. Okay. And under the arm, about an inch under the armpit. Okay. Take a deep breath. And away. Now go back and notice what feels different. Feels like about a 3 right now. Okay. Now, is it lower in intensity or different in quality or both? Lower in intensity. Okay, but same quality of feeling? Yeah. Now, it did move a little bit. I don't know if that is something that happens. It's very common. So it kind of like now I feel it more in my shoulders and neck area. Okay, so focus there. Okay, sorry. Okay. No. I shouldn't be sorry. Do people say sorry? Yeah. No, not usually. Usually they're like, I'm paying you. You're going to work for it. So it's right. Like, yeah. So focus how what it feels like. Okay. Got it? Yeah. Okay, so just focus there as you tap again. Just focus as you tap. Side of the eye. Under the eye, focus as you tap. Okay, focus as you tap. See? Just keep trying to focus on that pain. Collarbone. And under the arm. Okay, take a deep breath again. Away. Okay, now go back and evaluate what's different there.
That's gone.
Okay, what about the jaw?
The jaw's gone.
Okay, what about the scar tissue?
Scar tissue is probably about between a 1 and a 2.
Okay, so there. Okay,
yeah.
So now what
That's
happened
fast.
there? Yeah, it is fast.
And I feel calm. I feel like some ease.
Now, classical EFT will talk about, you know, energy and meridians and all that stuff. I tend to make a more simplified explanation, is that these are trigger points, right? And they're trigger points to create relaxation responses.
Oh,
right? So I could force a relaxation response.
Since we're doing this for the podcast, can you do that one more time, but say what you're tapping? Because this was a visual. Did you say what because I was following you with my eyes. I wasn't.
Yeah, no, I was saying it.
You were? Okay. I just want
yeah, I was saying it because I didn't.
I was so in the moment. I wasn't
camera.
sure.
Yeah, no, I was saying it.
Okay. Okay.
And yeah, I even told you where to go to under the arm. So
yes, you did. Okay. All right. So, I was just watching. I'm so visual. So I want to make sure my people that were just only listening don't have the benefit of the visual right now.
Yeah.
So,
no, they got
they got it.
So, but I'll just say it real clear then. So one more way to clear it up. The eyebrow point is where the eyebrow touches the top of the nose, the bridge of the nose. Side of the eye is on the side of the eye, but not quite at the temple. Under the eye is pretty much under the eye. Under
just
the nose,
like your cheekbone almost.
Yeah, under the nose is where that little cleft in there is. Under the chin is
little mustache area.
Yeah. The chin is equidistant between your bottom lip and the bottom of your chin, so it's like right in the middle of your chin. Collarbone is right where your collarbone is towards the middle of the chest. Yeah,
almost
the little bump
like
there. And again, under the arm is about an inch under your armpit. For women, it's right where your bra strap is. That'd be the point there. So this way, if you notice, I didn't say much, because I wanted you to focus on the physiology, and we were using that as the target.
Yeah.
Right? Because whatever thought process was generating that, I don't really need to know if we're going to do it this way. So
they call that content free.
Yes. I mean, I call it a body shortcut, but yeah, it's content free. And even though I was, I always have to like bite my lip because I have like 5 different NLP language patterns popping into my head that I want to use. Like, no, I was like, no, this isn't the time for that. But in classic, if I'm using it, say with a specific target and it's that kind of, we're going to be using wording and stuff like that, then I'll use neuro-linguistic language patterns all the time. And it just gets right to where the real target is, so, but this is a good shortcut for everybody tuning in, because it doesn't take any memorization of any words or anything like that. It's just, hey, and a lot of people, they're just getting so overwhelmed in general that they don't know why anyway. So see, I'm not using my fingers. They don't know why anyway. So this would be a really good shortcut to use, and it'll come in handy. And eventually, like you said, you felt calmer right off the bat, and it was pretty quick. And
I was surprised that it happened so fast for me.
Yeah. Well, it again, your brain is wired for speed. We as a society have been used to slowing it down. whether in the education system or anything else. You know, perfect analogy is a keyboard, now a computer keyboard, but a typewriter keyboard was the same. The QWERTY keyboard is actually the most inefficient keyboard configuration there is. The Dvorak is actually a lot more speedy. You could like triple your speed on a Dvorak keyboard as opposed to the QWERTYs that we use. So why have it? Because back in the day when there were actually typewriters, if you went too fast, you actually jammed the mechanism. So they actually had to create the keyboard specifically to slow the typist down so they wouldn't jam the machinery.
Oh my goodness, I had no idea.
So of course it's long since outlived its usefulness, but being creatures of habits, we humans are, we still use a QWERTY keyboard. Right? But the brain is like that, right?
Well, plus most of us learn to type. Most of us learn to type, you know, at an age where, I mean, we were like sponges and, you know, taking in this information much easier. So it would probably be, you know, I would imagine it would probably be pretty difficult to learn a whole new.
Oh yeah. Well, yeah, because it's, I mean, you could start, you know, changing the next generation over to a Dvorak easily enough, but it is what it is. But the brain's like that, right? The mind changes in an instant. You know, now what might take a long while, if we're prone to the painful approach, what takes the long time is to get to the point of change, right? But the change itself happens in an instant. You could unlearn
making the decision. Well, Tony Robbins says that it's about ultimately making that decision. It's that's the thing that takes the longest, is to just get to a point where you decide.
Exactly. And he's 100% right, because when he says change happens in an instant, and it does. We're just not used to that. Right. Same thing. You've done work with phobias. Right?
Yeah.
How quickly do they change rapidly or what? Of course they do.
Absolutely.
Right. Because it's usually what? It's usually a one-time learning that's pretty easy to collapse. Once you identify, well, why are you afraid of snakes? Because my brother threw a snake at me when I was 5. And then, okay, so all I got to do is collapse that one learning, get you to unlearn that, and we're good to go.
Yeah.
Right. And we complicate things, like, you know, going through the current situation, right? And we're looking at all these inputs, right? And we're just saying, okay, well, how could I not feel so stressed out? Look what's happening. And you could choose not to feel freaked out anytime you want, and it'll happen in an instant, right? Another way to do that right now, anybody who's listening or watching right now, if you're still feeling stressed out after tapping, which probably means you probably didn't do it, but that's okay. But let's say you're still feeling that way. What I want you to do right now is I want you to stand up. I want you to stand up, and I want you to look at the ceiling as you take a deep breath. Okay. And if you're doing that, I challenge anybody to still feel stressed out in their body. It's almost physiologically impossible.
So true.
Your physiology is your shortcut, right? You learned one here doing the tapping thing. Get moving, all right? Lockdown doesn't mean we can't go outside, right? At least not here. I know they did that in Wuhan, but not doing that here. Get out and move, okay? Do not sit around watching TV or doing that. Get up and move. You need to shift your physiology. Shifting in your physiology will shift your emotional state, right? They're both part of the same equation. You either move one, move the other, or move both. So if you can't really get yourself out of the mental funk that you're in, move your body then.
Yeah.
Whether it's
and I would also add moving the air through your body. You know, I think, you know, because we have a tendency as human beings to naturally take very shallow breaths. And then when we get into a state of tension or anxiety, I think we hold our breath even more. And you need to be moving that breath through your body. to, to like, I don't know why, but but
Well,
I
it
think
changes your physiology.
It's good. Yes. It's going to change the energy. It's going to change the state. It's going to change just the whole feeling. And it's going to release a lot of that anxiety. It's just one of those things I know to do that, you have to just like move, and you can, take deep breaths all the way down deep into your diaphragm. Okay. And really just expand your chest area. And that's going to release a lot of that stuck, stale emotion and energy. And so that's just another thing that you have control over, that you can move at any time.
Yeah. And it's focusing on the physiological portion of it. And one of the main reasons I got excited about doing this with you today, other than it's doing it with you, is one thing that is concerning me a little bit is you're hearing about, the safety protocols and all that. You're hearing about this, that, and the other. What I'm not really hearing enough about, I don't think, is the mental aspect of all of this.
Yeah.
They're just not talking about it. And, in my full-time gig, I've seen an uptick in suicidal ideations among kids, things of that nature. It's a fragile emotional state for a lot of people. And I don't think they're not only they not addressing it, I don't think they would want to, because they want to just, inundate you with all this stuff. Look, folks, you got to shake that. Okay. It's your self-preservation is probably going to hang. And look, I'm not a scientist. I'm not a doctor. I don't play one on TV, but I will give my 2 cents, which is 1 cent after taxes, that your mental, your mental state is going to be more important in all of this than your physical state.
I 100% agree, because even if you lost your health temporarily, okay, you got sick. I mean, the only thing really that you are going to be able to use, I mean, besides whatever medication or whatever, but the thing that's going to help you to get your health back is your mind, your mindset.
Yeah. And your mindset, if you've ever dealt with any kind of major illness before, right? People should know that that's a key thing. People sometimes will pass away over the most minor illness. And the doctors will just say, well, it's almost like they didn't want to live anymore.
Yeah.
Right. On the other side, you have people that will just make these Herculean kind of recoveries, and keep perspective, people. I mean, if you look at the actual data, 90% worldwide of those affected recover.
Yes.
Okay. 90%. It's actually higher than that. I'm downgrading the number, but let's just say 90%. It's really a little bit more than that. But 90% of people affected recover.
Yeah. And I think only like 1 in 1,000 are getting it.
Right. And that one too.
In the higher populated areas.
Right. And here's one thing I want everybody to consider also. Okay. Because I've come from a psych background where we had to do research and stats and all that boring stuff. And I want you guys to consider something. In order to get tested right now, you have to be in a risk group, and B, be exhibiting symptoms. Okay. So I want you to think this through now. The only one who will be confirmed is someone who's already symptomatic, which is in a high risk group, which means your sample of data is already skewed.
Yeah. Yeah. More people actually have, you're saying more people actually have it than are getting tested.
Correct. Or don't have it.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah.
But either way,
Yeah, that's
your
true.
sample
Yeah.
group is the one that's going to show the most severity.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So your severity numbers are going to be skewed because they have to be,
Mm-hmm.
because your sample is of a particular set.
Yeah.
So while the media doesn't tell you any of that, and everyone is freaking out, and yes, again, it's serious. It's not just the flu. It goes a lot faster, and I get all that.
Yeah.
But there's other data. Hello. There's other data that they're not telling you. Okay. And if you look at it all, you probably won't freak out nearly as much. But if you're prone to freakouts, because that's your map of the world, it's okay.
Mm-hmm.
But handle it. And we gave you a couple of tools. Victoria talked about the breathing. We did the body shortcut on the tapping. Even here's another one I'll throw in just for the heck of it. Let's say right now you're feeling stressed out. Okay. What I want you to do is tell me, or well, you can't tell me because you're not really talking to me, but tell yourself, what does it look like in your head? What are you seeing in your mind right now? Is it dark? And if it is, why don't you try whiting it out? Just white it out. Just white it out.
What we're doing is changing the submodalities.
You're exactly right. So you're going to make opposite of whatever you're experiencing. Okay. So let's say you're hearing self-talk. All right. Let's say you're hearing the self-talk. Like, my God, this is just so bad. This is awful, or anything along that line. Is it clear to you? Does it sound like it's close to you? If it does, try pushing it into distance and start to make it sound like static, like on the radios when you're off a channel, just as it fades into the distance. And notice how much different you feel doing that. Okay. If in your body you're feeling tension, right now find one part of your body that does not have that tension in it. Could even be just one toe, wherever that is, that you just feel relaxation and calm in your body. Focus there and now begin to expand that. So that feeling now starts to exude throughout your body. Now, I went through that real quick, but yeah, it works that quick too, right? What you hopefully are discovering, and if you're a follower of Victoria, you've definitely been discovering this for a while now, is the power of your own mind, right? They can't take that from you. No one could take that from you, right? And in a time of crisis, it's really all you have to hold on to, right? Leaving spirituality out of it, of course. That's a whole other genre, but we're dealing with the mind here, right?
Right.
So that is your power. All right. You can come out of this whole deal stronger than you were before. Okay. I think
many people will.
I would hope so. I thankfully have not gained an ounce since I've been locked out.
You mean
everything else?
Gain weight?
Yeah, not an
ounce. I know. I cannot believe all the memes that I've been seeing lately about what people are going to look like after they come out of quarantine. The mass hypnosis that's going on about that. Don't buy it. You don't have to.
Say that again.
Say that again.
Mass hypnosis, folks. You are being hypnotized. You are. You're being not. It's not an evil plot or anything, but you are. You're being hypnotized.
Right. I plan to come out. In the same shape, if not better, as I was. I don't have any more or less time on my hands than I still have the same 24 hours in my day because, I've been on lockdown for the last 21 years already.
Welcome to my life, people.
It's kind of my life. It's kind of my normal life, is working from home. And so it has, as far as my lifestyle really hasn't been impacted. And so I don't see, we're having a bit of a challenge finding the things that we normally like to buy at the groceries, but at the grocery store. But the thing is, I keep asking Steve, because Steve does all the grocery shopping, thank goodness. Because I don't like.
Does he wear his football helmet or?
No, he's fine. He's fine. But but it is like, it's a little icky at this moment, thinking of like, because I'm in my safe cocoon. I haven't touched anyone. I haven't been around anyone. I haven't, honestly, I mean, I really have just been living in my own little cocoon, but I do have my husband, that is out in the workforce, still working, doing the grocery shopping. And so he comes in, and there's a little bit of a stigma, that like, oh, you've been out there with the people.
Go delouse and come back.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So, but anyway, my point was, we haven't been able to find, a couple of things. We're used to buying the chicken. We had the most amazing fish last night, though, and so we were able to buy that. But the chicken's been a little scarce, because of course you got the hoarders out there, hoarding it. But the question I've asked him that has been always answered is like, well, how about the fresh produce? Is there plenty of vegetables and fresh fruit? And there's plenty of vegetables and fresh fruit. And so, even if, and we, we have our frozen turkey burgers, and fresh fish seems to still be available. And we've gotten some frozen chicken and things like that. So, I'm still living my keto diet the same way I always do. I'm still living on keto, but I keep hearing about these people with their, stocking up on all the canned goods, the carbs, and talking about how much weight they're going to gain when they come out. And it's like, well, yeah, it's exactly what's going to happen.
Well, if they're going to speak it into being, then yeah. And, another thing that you could use the body shortcut for is that if you're starting to feel these impulses to binge eat, tune into that physical impulse and use the tapping technique. It'll short circuit that, because there's a variety of reasons why people will do that. Again, it's not right. It's not wrong. It just is. It's part of your map. Right. So that's cool. Yeah. But if it's not serving you, right, change it and get rid of it. I mean, it's just, that's what it's going to come down to. And, it hopefully, you'll all come out of this a lot better than you were before. Don't feel guilty if you do, because people will make their own choices. Yeah. Right. And those for everybody listening, you can't control what people in your family are going to respond. You can't control what people in your friends circle are going to respond. You can't control any of that. They might go down the dump. They might just, be freaking out on a daily basis and want to call you every 5 minutes to freak out with you. And you can't do that. Yeah. Be there for them as much as you can. And you need to take your distance and, do what you need to do. So like this whole social distancing thing, you could use that metaphorically as well as physically, right? Social distance yourself from people who are freaking out. Social distance yourself from the media onslaught. Social distance yourself from social media to some degree. If you need to. I say
quarantine your mind.
Quarantine your mind. Yeah. That everything that you have to do physically, you can do at a meta level as well.
Yeah. Like only it's like, we're only letting good things in our house. We'll only let good things in your mind.
Yeah. You have to wash your hands, wash your thoughts, wash your mind. Okay. If it's negative, you need to go wash. Yeah. Just like if you touch something, you gotta go wash your hands. So, and in fact, you could even use the same rule of thumb. You have to wash your hands for 20 seconds, right? Minimum. Yeah. Right.
When you start to travel down the negative,
for 20 seconds, you have to think of a happy place or a happy time for 20 seconds.
For 20 seconds. I love it. Seconds. I love it.
And that'll snap the pattern, right? Because a lot of this is going to be pattern interrupts anyway. So yeah, do all that. Wow, we threw a lot at him this time, didn't we?
We really did. There's a lot of tools here, a lot of tools. Well, John, it has been always amazing, always a pleasure to have you on the show. And especially during this time, I think you really were able to provide us with some really valuable tools. Speaking of my wonderful husband, he should be walking in the house with some groceries any moment now. So I need to be down there ready to receive the groceries.
Well, I have cooked ones waiting for me. So
that's my job. So let's talk about let's just wrap up with where people can find you to, if they need help and with this. You wrote a book, Healing with Hypnosis for Kindle. Is that
on Amazon? It's an ebook on Amazon. Yeah, it's a Kindle on Amazon.
So they can get that.
They can get that. Also, there's I co-authored a book called EFT for Everybody. Jillian Morris was the main author, and there was a few of us that were co-authors. I have a chapter in there as well. They can find me on Facebook. If they have you as a friend, find me in her friends list. I'm in there. I'm also on LinkedIn. My website is virtualhypnosisinternational.com.
Virtualhypnosisinternational.com. If you need a virtual hypnosis session.
Yeah, if you need virtual hypnosis. I do EFT virtually as well. Been doing it since 2006 that way. So while everyone else is trying to convert, I'm like, where have you all been? I've been doing exactly. I've been doing exclusively this way forever, but so yeah, they can find me any of those ways. And if you just need to, get a pointer on something, if you just want to decompress, whatever it might be, just feel free to reach out. At this time, we're all got to be here for each other. So
absolutely. Well, thank you so much for all of your wonderful wisdom and insight and help. And at this time of high anxiety and stress and heightened emotions and heightened suggestibility, I think this is definitely the time for utilizing and taking time to utilize these useful tools. So thanks for being here to provide us with some ways to do that.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me again. Appreciate it.
You're welcome. Have
a good